Welcome to the Spirit of Business, where businesses learn to thrive. I am your host, Jamie Pritchard, mortgage agent with Mortgage Guys, and today I have with me my guest, Elaine Turcotte. Elaine helps entrepreneurs sell in a world that hates selling. And one thing that she does and is very good at is she changes entrepreneurs' mindset from hating sales to a process that allows them to feel that it's not salesy and very natural and effortless. So I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about that. Hello, Elaine.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm always interested when individuals are in sales. So my first question for you is, what compelled you into a career in sales?
Oh God, I never thought I would be in sales. In fact, when I got the job, my dad said, and I quote, "Why would you want to spend your time manipulating people?" I started out really young, and I was a yearbook person, and I was a yearbook editor in high school, and I got a job at Jostens, and I kind of landed in it, and I worked my way up. And all of a sudden, a position opened up in Toronto, and I decided to jump for it. And so I moved from Winnipeg to Toronto, originally from Ottawa, but I took a bit of a detour.
Okay.
And I was mentored for 3 years. And then after those 3 years, I bought the business, the territory from my mentor. And I was shy, I was introverted, but I loved yearbook. I loved the process. I loved being in my schools. I loved helping kids create something. And so I thought, I have to figure this out. But it was bumpy in the beginning.
So I understand, Jostens sells yearbooks and pictures and to like, what was it you were selling?
So I was in the yearbook division, so I would help people create their yearbooks every year. They sold to the photo business, but that was what they were most well known for. And they also create those big Super Bowl rings. And the big champ rings. So I never was in that division, but that was always fun.
Wow. Very interesting. So you got out of that business how long ago?
It's been about 4 years now.
Yeah. Okay, about 4 years. And what happened? Why, if things were, you enjoyed it, what happened?
It was a series of things that happened. I had kind of hit I've done everything I want to do in this business, and there's nowhere to grow. And to be honest, there was one day where I couldn't force myself to get out of the car anymore. And so I started looking around and seeing what else I could do. Because I used to love it, and it was challenging, but I hit the point in my business where no one could ask me a question I didn't know the answer to anymore. And so I like to be challenged, and oh boy.
So it lost its challenge. It lost its challenge. It wasn't fun. You weren't okay.
Yeah. It's a tough business to be in.
Yeah. Very competitive.
Yeah, very competitive. Buy rates are going down. Kids are on social media. So it was declining, and it was just time for a new challenge, something new.
Right. So why not move to another business? You decided to do what?
So I decided to do some coaching. I had an experience at a retreat in Ireland, and I had some stuff happen in my family that I needed to kind of deal with. And so I loved coaching. And so that kind of started the journey. I looked around at other jobs, and there was one that I really wanted, and that door just didn't open. So I thought, if there's no company that I want to work for, then I have to create my own. And so that's kind of what happened.
And what was the coaching focused on?
Initially, it was life coaching. I took classes at the Institute of Life Coach training. And then I went on a retreat in Peru and met a woman who sat beside me at dinner one night. And she was an NLP coach. And I became a client, and then I took the training myself because it was, 7 days, I got more tools to help my clients than I did in a year and a half at the Institute of Life Coach training. So it was incredible.
So I'm trained as a coach, as you know, and I have had some other colleagues that have added that the NLP side. I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate here because there is some myths, and I just like to deal with the facts and experiences. So the myth out there is that NLP is a little bit woo woo. You mentioned that you tried it first, so you in 7 days you learn more and were learn more. So can you tell me a little bit more about that process? What happened for you?
Yeah. So at the institute, when you're learning coaching, you're always practicing on each other. And so I was a client first, and I had such an incredible experience within one session. So that I decided to learn it myself. And I'm one of those people who likes to understand the world. I like to deconstruct things and make sense of things. And when
Yeah.
I learned NLP, it gave me an answer for everything. I was like, oh, this is my language.
Okay.
And it is a bit woo-woo, and it's a bit, there's a misconception that you can control people and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
I use it in ways that enhance communication and, really help people. So always approaching it with integrity and congruency.
And it's funny you should mention it about language. I am actually taking a mortgage course, and our Scott Peckford, who is big in the mortgage industry from a training perspective, touts NLP. And NLP from the stand, not only from a mindset standpoint, but more importantly from a language standpoint when dealing with clients. So it is I'd be interested to hear your experiences in because you're moving now more into into entrepreneurs and helping them people that hate sales into loving sales. So my question is, how do you implement that NLP into your process?
Well, if you think about it, language is communication, and sales
Right.
and NLP are all about communication. And
Right.
so when you learn to effectively communicate with someone, with anyone, then you get the result you're looking for. So my favorite sales story is not a sales story. It
Okay.
is my sister and my niece. My niece is 5. And when she started school last September, she hated school. You could not do anything to convince her to get her shoes on and get out the door. So one day my sister said, if you get your shoes on and we leave right away, you'll get first pick at the toys. And that motivated her beyond anything. She finally found the thing that was going to get her moving, that was
Right.
benefiting her. First pick at the toys. Like, who doesn't want that as a 4-year-old?
Right. Right.
Mommy being late for work doesn't do anything, but first pick at the toys was benefiting her. And so using that language to communicate and using words that resonate with people is so important.
So you talk about a four-step process, and what you just described there is really finding people's motivation. What I find in sales is there's different kinds of people, and not everything works. Can you describe sort of a bit about your four-step process and how you help people go from hating sales to making it feel more natural?
Yeah, so I believe that there's 4 steps that people like to buy in, and this is researched and backed. People need to trust the person that they're buying. If you think of even a simple transaction at a grocery store, if you don't trust the grocery store not to have bad products, there's an E. coli outbreak in spinach, you're not going to buy that from those people, from that grocery store.
Right.
So the first thing is trust. The second
Right.
thing is help. So I have to have a problem. I have to have a need. The next step is the solution, being able to help them. And then the last step is hurry. So creating some urgency. What most people jump to is right to the solution. They don't stop to build trust. They assume that they have trust with people. And just because you're an expert, it doesn't mean that you have earned anyone's trust. And so they jump and they don't even know what your problem is, right? But I have the solution. Here it is. And if you buy now, you save 8,000%.
Right.
And so when you do a lot of the work up front, when you build a lot of trust, and when you find the problem that people don't even know they have. If I have a problem, I can just go Google it. Right now, that is becoming even more of a problem, because if I can solve my own problem. So the people that are successfully selling are finding the problems. They're not solving problems. They're finding problems that people don't even know they have.
So help me understand the trust. The trust is the most key aspect. So help me understand what, I don't know, let's use myself in the mortgage industry. What types of things, what might that look like for me to build trust?
Trust happens in little moments where you show people that you genuinely care, right? And so most of the time as salespeople, we sit down and we just start talking about all the features, and maybe we'll throw in a few benefits. And I often use an example of buying a car. So the last car I bought, I actually walked out of the dealership because the guy never asked me a single question about me or what I was looking for. He talked incessantly. And I bought the same car at a different dealership on the same day.
Yeah. And a lot of those, I worked in retail very early in my career, and the old FAB, feature, advantage, benefit. You had to understand the product, the features, advantage, and benefits. And all it was just, typically, it was just a roll of that. So I just got to hit the right one. And so what you're talking about, though, is asking about you. The first step about building trust is, so Elaine, why are you buying a car? What brought you in here today? Right.
Or even as simple as, what's important to you about a car? Because had he asked me that, I would have said the radio and air conditioning.
Right.
And he wouldn't have had to talk about engine speed or horsepower or none of the things I couldn't care less about.
And I'm the same. I typically, I've always bought a car as a utilitarian value for me. Can it get me from point A to point B? Does it have a little bit of comfort, air conditioning? I like the Bluetooth app, but maybe that, something like that. So then you focus on those things. Are there specific questions in general that a salesperson can ask to open that rapport with people?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What might they be?
And there's a sequence to them, right? And the reason there's a sequence is you want to, the sales conversation is a conversation with a point. So it's not just having two people have coffee and have a conversation. You are leading them somewhere.
Right.
Also, there are certain questions you cannot ask until you've built trust. And so they did some research, and if you are sitting in front of someone you don't know and they ask you for your social insurance number right up front, you are not likely to give it to them.
Exactly.
Your guard is going to be up. But if they ask you your name and your address and all kinds of questions, by the time that they do ask you for your social insurance, you might be willing to give it to them. You might be more open to it and trusting.
So what are 3 questions that are good to ask from a sales perspective in order to open that rapport?
So the first one I always ask is, what made you reach out? Especially if they booked an appointment with me. Even if I contacted them, I will ask, what made you agree to meet? Okay. And this is a beautiful question because it gets them to tell you right up front all the things that they already like about you.
It gets them to think too, right? And
it gets them to sell themselves. So a lot of my questions actually get people to talk themselves into the sale instead of me doing the heavy lifting.
Right.
I like to ask, what's important to you? What's your biggest challenge? One of my favorite questions, once we're at a certain point and we've built enough trust, is, it's a year from now, we've done some work together. What's changed? What's different? And that gets them to create a picture in their mind of a different future. And if they can't picture that, they're never going to buy.
Right, right, right. So, and I guess that helps you understand whether they're going to be coachable, because if they can't envision out there, they might be a coaching addict.
Possibly. Also, like my vision is very different than their vision, right? So the
Exactly.
things that I like and the things that I think would be good for someone does not mean anything. It's what they need and what they want that I'm interested in.
Right. One of the things I learned at the core of the coaching training institute that I was at is that the client is creative, resourceful, and whole. Basically, they have the answers. We're not there to provide the 7 ways to happiness, according to Elaine or Jamie, but help draw what they already know.
Yeah.
So that's a very similar process, right?
Yeah, taking 100% responsibility for your life, right? If I tell you, do this and you'll be happy, if you're not, then you can blame me.
Yeah. The other, so you also mentioned questions that you can't ask until you have trust. So what kinds of questions would you not want to ask at the beginning of a relationship?
Um, so I'll give you an example of how I'll ask a question when the subject of competition pops up. So if someone has worked with someone before, or I'm dealing with a competitor or something, I will ask them, what do you like about them? Because if I ask what you don't like about them right away,
Yeah.
their guard's going to go up. So they may not like anything, but I'm not going to assume. I want to know and put them at ease. And maybe they had a great relationship with that person.
Right.
Cool. And then I ask, okay, so what didn't you like?
Right.
And if there's nothing great, and if there is something, they're going to open up about it. But going straight in and assuming that there's something they don't like puts people on edge a little bit and gets their guard up. I also don't ask why questions ever. And why questions?
Why?
Well, why would you do that? the standard parent answer or parent question gets people's back up constantly.
Yeah. Okay. What's your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
I think the first 2 years of entrepreneurship were one failure after another, putting out courses that 1 or 2 people bought, and putting out workshops and 1 person would attend. I think that failure is something that I needed to experience because I hadn't failed a whole lot. I had succeeded so much, and everything came naturally to me. And I also experienced seeing it in schools. I was in schools for 15 years, and you cannot fail a kid. It is very, very difficult. I've had this conversation with many principals. And I think that failure is something that teaches you the most. I once heard an interview with the founder of Spanx, and her dad every night at dinner would ask her, what did you fail at today? And I think it's such a beautiful question because it normalizes failure. The first 2 years taught me to get back up, even when I was broke, even when I was facing bankruptcy, and to keep going. And that teaches resilience and determination. And
so I'm always curious when people tell me that, because it would be so easy just to say, this is insane. What am I doing? Well, let's go find a job. And what is it that keeps you going?
And to be honest, I found some part-time jobs just to take the pressure off. I wrapped presents in a toy store and I did whatever I had to. The work that I do is so transformational that after the first or second session, my clients just are a whole new person. And seeing that keeps me going. Getting the texts from clients saying, oh my God, I haven't slept in a month and 1 session with you and I'm finally sleeping again. Or that kind of massive, massive quick transformation.
So I want to be a little bit clearer here because I sometimes a lot of coaching or sessions that they talk about a quick fix. In my experience, there isn't a quick fix. And you mentioned earlier, it's a slow progression. So when you talk about somebody being able to sleep, is that it for them, or is there more work? Like, what does I'm just trying to understand. Is it a
Yeah.
quick fix, or how does it work?
So I use some tools in NLP. My school of NLP does some really cool stuff. And so some of it is quick fixes. This particular client, I just worked with her, and she's 19 years old, was going through a very specific issue. And
Okay.
so we dealt with that. Everyone's different, right? So some people need more. What I found with NLP is that it was faster than most things. And yet I am absolutely one of those people, and a prime example of, 5 years later on this coaching journey, I'm still every day doing the work.
Right. Good. Good. What advice would you give somebody trying to pursue a career in your career?
In coaching?
Yeah.
I would say make sure that you have more savings than you think you're going to need.
Okay.
Take the pressure off of yourself. So if you need a part-time job, go do it. And get yourself a really good support system. And also learn how to sell. I know that I did not, when I left Justin's, they threw out all of my sales books, and I thought, I never have to sell again. I can stop pretending.
Yeah.
And
you wish you hadn't done that?
Yeah, I had to rebuy some of the books.
Okay.
And also my friends were struggling. And so I decided to, after a lot of people approaching me, I decided to help them. But what I've also realized is that selling your product or service is entirely different. I've had clients on the sales side who were sales managers, and then they tried to sell their own personal service or their product, and it was an entirely different ballgame for them. It didn't translate. And so not every coaching, or not every, you go to school when you're going to be an entrepreneur, and maybe you take, you're going to be a chiropractor, or you're going to be something, and you take all the schooling, but they don't actually teach you how to run a business.
No. So what is the secret sauce, if there is any, to selling your own products?
I think it is care about people. And we are naturally excited about the thing we do. We're passionate. It's probably helped us, and we want everyone else to see it.
Yeah.
And in that, we tend to overtalk, and we tend to dump all over people. And so actually caring about the other person and taking the time to get to know them and to get to know their problems before you start trying to fix anything,
right,
that is the key.
When you talk to people, what are the things that somebody that truly cares about you, what's the difference in the language and demeanor versus somebody who isn't there?
I just think of my experience in high schools where most of the kids were, looking at their shoes instead of looking at me in the eye. So my goal by the end of the year, by the end of the 10 months that we worked together, was to get them to actually connect with me and to look at me in the eye. Right. And I think that we're distracted. We're on our phones. We're scanning the room for who else we need to talk to. And right. You can, one of my favorite sales books is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie. He's amazing. And you can get more friends and meet more people by being interested than interesting. And I firmly believe that.
So it's about taking time. And I guess some of the things that would be different is that they would be putting down the phone, they would be looking at you, making eye contact, and not distracted by other things.
Yeah, if you think about the people that you trust in your life, it's those
Yep.
little moments, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you know Brene Brown's marble jar video, but she explains trust in a way that is really unlike anybody else. And she says that trust happens in those little moments when, people show up to funerals, when they remember your dad is in the hospital and they remember to ask. Simon Sinek talks about that too, where we used to go to meetings and we'd be like, oh, how's your mom? How's she doing? But now we're on our phones and we're trying to keep up with email. We're not connecting with each other or getting to know each other or connecting or showing that we care.
What are some great resources that you use to keep yourself on top of your game?
I am an avid reader, always have been. So I love anything in a book. I was in publishing for 15 years. What
are you reading now? What's a book you're reading now?
So I have on my bookshelf Permission to Feel by Mark Brackett.
Okay.
I think so. I can't quite see it from here. That could be the wrong author. I've just finished Untame. I read a lot of business books and personal growth books, so it's a bit of a mix of everything. One of my favorite sales books is Daniel H. Pink's To Sell is Human. And it is incredible.
And do you read any fiction?
Yes, occasionally. So I just finished 2 last month.
Okay.
Right now, I am taking my master's in psychology and the neuroscience of mental health.
Wow.
So I am.
I'll keep you busy.
Knee deep in behavioral psychology right now and cognitive psychology books.
Who are 3 people that have been most influential in your career?
My old boss, Judy. She was my national sales director at Jostens, and kind of took a chance on me when I was really, really young. Sent me to Sales Academy, gave me a territory, and really supported me in an industry that was very male, very white. The average age was about 55, 60, and I was, 24, young and female, shy. Yeah. And she really nurtured my career. Another person would be Philip McKernan. He was the leader of the 2 retreats that I talked about, Ireland and Peru. He is an absolutely incredible coach. And the other 2, I would say, would be both my grandmothers. They were both entrepreneurs, strong women, raised 6 kids each, and just incredible women.
Very, very nice. If you were in my shoes, what question would you ask yourself that I haven't already asked?
Oh boy, I love questions. I would ask, what's your favorite question?
What's your favorite question?
My favorite question is, what's important to you about something? And if you think about just an average conversation with someone, or even an argument with your partner,
right?
If you stopped to ask them, what's important to you about this? Just think about the information that you would get, and the argument would stop being about the details, and it would be completely different. That question really stops people in their tracks.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. What does the spirit of business mean to you?
I'm not sure. What does it mean to you?
That's it. Oh, you're a very good coach. I'm not the one being interviewed.